Hello and welcome to the Stitch Together podcast. My name is Chrissy, I'm your host. The date is Tuesday the 9th of February 2016 and this is episode 28. It's lovely to see you again. It's a lovely sunny day here in Leicestershire, which is a refreshing change from the nasty, wet, windy, cold monsoon weather we have been having of late. So yeah, it was nice I popped out to the shop today and got a bit of fresh air because it just was nice to get out and get some vitamin D because sadly lacking this year, I'm afraid. So yeah, it's nice day. So I thought we've got good, decentish light, may as well record today and do it while there's some sun. Otherwise it'd be under electric lights as it has been for the last couple of episodes. But hopefully it'll be all right just without anything extra. So straight on to stuff and things. I think the main thing I need to talk to you about in stuff and things is the self-indulgent craft along, and that finishes on the 29th of February. I will lock the thread on the 1st of March when I get up to allow everybody to get their entries in. The thread will be locked when I get up on the 1st of March, and if you have not posted an FO picture in that thread, then sadly you won't be eligible for prizes. I would appreciate it if you actually had a project page up as well, just so I can have a look at what you've been doing, the patterns and things like that, just for everybody's enlightenment, shall we say. So the prizes for this craft along, which is meant to be pure self-indulgence, something that you desperately wanted to knit, some beautiful yarn, a really nice pattern, something just for yourself, just to make you feel good. And it started on Christmas Day on the 25th of December, and it had to be a new cast on that day, because the idea being it's a new project, it's all new and exciting after running around doing things for other people at the end of the year. So you've still got time to enter. I mean, it's only the 9th of February. You've still got another 20 days. I'm sure you could do something even if you haven't started yet. But we've got some really nice prizes. And the first prize is the project bag, which I think is absolutely beautiful. And that is from Knit and Stitch Bits, which is very kindly donated. And I love this polka dot lining. I think it's just gorgeous. And it's a really beautifully made bag. It's got a box bottom, and I really recommend her bags. I really recommend you go and have a look at the Etsy shop because they are incredibly well priced, even including the fact that you have to pay postage from Australia. They're pretty much some of the cheapest bags out there, even including the postage. So for something that's this well made, which is nicely sort of interfaced with some, I think it's light, it might be light padding, or it might just be 2 layers of interfacing. I can't quite tell. It feels padded, but it might just be 2 layers of interfacing. But it's gorgeous. It's got this lovely, I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of shiny gold on the fabric. So it's rather beautiful. And next up we have a skein of yarn from the Wool Barn, and that's Alpaca Sock Grey in the denim colourway, and that's 70% natural light grey baby alpaca, 20% silk and 10% cashmere, and it's absolutely beautiful. Really gorgeous stuff. I do like these labels she's got there. Maya does beautiful work, and she has gorgeous bases, and that was very kindly donated by Maya for you guys. And finally, a skein of silky merino fingering from the Uncommon Thread, and it's 75% superwash merino and 25% mulberry silk in the fern colourway, and that was very kindly donated by a viewer. And it's really hard to show how. It's a really bright leafy green, and I'm not sure it's picking up properly on the camera, but it's a really beautiful sort of bright spring green colour. Sort of new growth leaves coming up through the ground. So those are the 3 prizes, and hopefully that will be enough to encourage you to come and join us over in the Ravelry group. There is an FO thread, obviously, and there is also a chat thread where you can just come and join in and have a natter, and that's been good fun as always. It really has very little to do with the knit along by the end of the first week. After that, it's just pure chat. Just come over and have a natter. It's always good fun. So that's pretty much everything in Stuff and Things. So I guess we can crack on with Done and Dusted, because I have quite a few bits to tell you about in Done and Dusted. The first off being, it wasn't, I do apologise if you can hear the yowling cat outside. That is actually my cat. She doesn't like the neighbour's cat. Doesn't like him going anywhere near her. And he's the world's friendliest cat and wants to play. Sadly, she doesn't. She doesn't like other cats. She barely tolerates humans. Anyway, moving on back to the knitting. I showed you last episode, this was the Eye Blink shawl by Heidi Alander. And I knit it out of some yarn I spun from John Arbon's alpaca merino silk, and I've worn this to death. I showed you in the last episode the bottom of the lace was curling quite badly, and I was trying to figure out what to do. So in the end, what I decided to do was I ripped back. I don't know how well you can see. Oh, it's terrible because the camera actually creates its own shadows. There we go. You can see now what I've done. I ripped back. I knit, I think it was about 8 rows of garter stitch. And then I did a beaded picot bind off. And I used these really, really pretty little beads I got from Jilly Beads, which is the first time I've used them. They're like a really delicate bead. They're kind of metallic with an amethyst sort of sheen to it, like an oil slick kind of colour. And they are Toho Metallic Iris Purple size 6/0 beads, if that means anything to you. But if you're knitting, if you're using beads with knitting, then you'll probably want a size 6/0 for sort of 4-ply and above. And those are the sizes. 6 is usually the one I go for, unless I was doing a lace project, in which like a lace weight project, then I'll probably use an 8/0/0. But it has completely solved the problem of the rolling. As you can see, it hangs beautifully now. It's the beads give the extra weight, and I love it. I really, really love this shawl, and I think it's going to get worn absolutely to death. It's just so cozy and warm, which of course is the alpaca part of it. And it's turned into a proper self-indulgent project. I enjoyed the spinning very much. I enjoyed the knitting very much. And now I'm enjoying the wearing very much. So it's been a proper self-indulgent project for me. I've really enjoyed it. So I hope you're enjoying your self-indulgent projects, and I'm really pleased I changed the edging, because I think it would have made me hesitant to wear it because it would have bugged me, and it really didn't take much doing to fix it. I think I did it in an afternoon, so not a lot of time at all, and it's absolutely worth it. And I just think the beads are the finishing touch, just gives you an extra glint when it's moving. I like it a lot. Very pleased with it. I used a different kind of picot than I've used before. I found it on YouTube. It was a video tutorial by, who was it? Yarn Fairy, and I've linked it in the show notes so you can go and have a look. But essentially, the difference to the way I normally do picots is there's no hole. Can you see? So often when you do a picot, you get a little hole, oops, right there where the loop is made, and this technique means you don't get it. And essentially what you do is you insert your needle into a stitch at the bottom when you do the sort of loop bit, and anchor it, it's really hard to explain without showing you, so I'm going to suggest you go and have a look at the YouTube video, because I think it's an excellent way of doing picos, and I really, really like it. I think it works really well. It means you don't get these little holes, which are fine in some instances, but with this particular shawl I didn't want a big gaping hole, and it would have been a big gaping hole because it's quite thick yarn. It's a heavy fingering weight, so it would have been a big hole that was left when I did the picot. So highly recommend that from Yarn Fairy, and she seemed to have a lot of other good tutorials that I'll probably have a look at some point. So that's my self-indulgent project that I fixed, which I was really proud about. I didn't even block it. The edging didn't even need blocking to make it nice and hang nice and sort of evenly. So really pleased about that. And it meant I used up more of my yarn, which is always good. I always like to use up as much of my hand spun yarn as possible. So moving on to one of my honking big shawls that I blocked last week and broke myself whilst doing. The first one is, you didn't even see me cast this on. I actually did it I finished it before the last episode, but hadn't blocked it, so I didn't talk about it because it was kind of in that half finished stage where there was kind of nothing to really talk about, if you see what I mean. This shawl is Eclipse. Let me take this one off and I'll put that one on. By Lara Smoot. The lovely, lovely Lara Smoot. Got a box down there just to pour things in. And I think this was a pattern I won in a giveaway. And this is an enormous, enormous shawl. So one end, it's really, really wide. And then it's really long and it kind of narrows. It's hard to tell whether you can see how much it narrows because I'm hidden behind the shawl. Can't see. Just basically gets longer and longer and longer whilst it gets narrower and narrower and narrower. So what I found with this shawl is it's great in cold weather as a kind of big swoopy scarfy thing. So what I've done is I've kind of taken the sort of triangular point at the front and I've put that down like that, and I've put the tip around the back and just wrapped myself with the long end. Oops. And it gives you this nice coverage at the front, which is where I have a gap in my, I have an open, like a V-neck with my coat. It's not double-breasted, it's single-breasted. So there's like a V at the top, which always gets cold in cold weather, obviously in cold weather, but if it's slightly chilly, I feel it there. And this, it just gives you massive coverage here if I wear it like this. I'm not sure if it would work for me wearing it kind of, you know, with the thick bit at the back. I don't know how it would wear. I've not tried it really. It could work, but it's not got much depth here at the front, which tends to be where I get cold even when I'm inside, because my back is usually up against the sofa, so I want something at the front, which is why I've worn it with the big bit at the front so often. But I'm really pleased how it turned out. I think it's worked really well, and this is basically an incredibly cheap project. The yarn, this beige colour, is Yeoman Yarns Sport, and it's a superwash merino sort of fingering weight yarn, and it came on a cone, and I think, I think I got it off eBay, and it wasn't until I looked them up to put them on my Ravelry account that I realised it's a Leicestershire firm, and because it was really cheap. I think it cost me about £6 for 500 grams. I mean, it was ridiculously cheap, and I thought it was going to be rubbish yarn. I thought it'd just be cheap and cheerful, and I'd be able to use it for things that got bashed around and didn't really need to last very long. And it's actually, once it was blocked, it softened beautifully. I mean, it's still fairly robust. It's not the softest merino, but I think it'll probably last longer than the softest merino. And the pink yarn is the Yarn Yard Clan in a pink colourway. I don't know what the actual name is. Now, the Clan is another superwash merino, and that was actually given to me a few years ago by the actual dyer. And what happened was there was an online store who were doing subscriptions. I think it was to Interweave, and a lot of us lost out because the shop just closed and just disappeared. So they'd taken the money, but they'd not passed it on to Interweave to send out the subscription. So we kind of lost our subscription money. And this lovely dyer took it upon herself to send all the people who've been talking in this thread about losing out on their Interweave subscriptions. She chose to send us all some of her yarn to say, not all online sellers are horrible. We are worth dealing with. We want to take care of you. And I'm really sorry you've been messed around. Which to me was just the most incredibly generous thing to do, because I think there's about 50 of us. And it was just an extraordinarily generous gesture. And I don't know if she's dying anymore. I know she took a bit of a break. She had surgery. And I don't know if she's come back to die. I know she's done a few bits and pieces selling yarn, but not in the way she was doing it before. But her yarn is beautiful, and strangely enough, one of the other things I'm working on at the moment uses this same yarn, which is Clan, and it's a good sturdy merino, a superwash merino that is soft and squishy, and I really like it. So I hope we get to see it again, because her colours are beautiful. She does really good semi-solid colours, really interesting ones. And so yeah, this was a really cheap project to get such a honking great shawl. It's massive, and I think I will get mostly wear out of it as a scarf, simply because of the length of it. It's huge, and you can wrap it round about 60 times. I know that's an exaggeration, please forgive me. So yeah, really pleased with that. Thank you, Laura, for your lovely pattern. I really enjoyed knitting it. It was perfect, simple, easy, straightforward knitting that I could do while I was reading. It was great. I really enjoyed it. Now, the other honking great shawl that I blocked this week that led to me having a nasty flare. You see, I made the mistake of doing a big shawl. I was feeling great. I laid it all out and I blocked it, and the next day when it was dry, I thought, well, there's no point in putting all this stuff away, leaving it a few days and then pulling it all out again to do another shawl. I may as well just use it now and just do it now. Of course, that was silly. It would have been much better if I put it all away and rested up for a couple of days and then did the next one. But no, apparently I know better than that, even though I knew I shouldn't have done it. Anyway, the finished shawl I'm really pleased with. This is my own design, and it's based on the Refraction Shawlette, which is a pattern that I've actually got released. This is the Refraction Shawlette, and you can see the diamond pattern at the top that goes into the sort of more lacy diamonds at the bottom. And I really love this. It looks dreadful with this top, but it's a really nice shawlette. It just sits really nicely. It's got good coverage. It's a really nice, easy pattern to do. It's very easy to read the lace, and I'm really quite proud of this shawl pattern, and I wear them quite a lot. Anyway, I decided I wanted to make it into a large version. So what I wanted to do, I think I showed, yeah, I know I showed you the first version I did with these side wings were done in garter stitch, and I put the increases in a different place. So this time I've done the double increases at the sort of where the garter edge is along the top. So I did 2 increases on the right side, 1 increase on the wrong side on both edges. So you get this nice elongated crescent, and then we've just got a single panel of lace in the middle, and the wings are really good size, really good size. And the yarn I used was Dye for Yarn BFL Sock in the Wooden Treasure Chest colourway, and this yarn bloomed beautifully when it was washed. I mean, it just totally changed when it was washed. When I was knitting it, it felt a bit scratchy and it was a bit rigid, and when it was washed it became soft, it draped beautifully. I mean, it just drapes so nicely for 100% wool, really does. And it's warm, it's light. The only problem I have with this yarn is it was very splitty, and there are a couple of places, I don't know if you can, I don't know how easy it is for you to see, sort of here. What happened was there were quite a few places where it split. Let's see if I can show you this one as well. And I had to, hard to show against the, see if you can see it any better this way around. Obviously I tried to make it as invisible as possible, but what I did was I duplicate stitched sort of over the split stitch and a few stitches round, because they were split and they only sort of had half the strand, and I just knew that's going to pull and it's going to snap and it's all going to unravel, and I didn't want that. And that's my only problem with the yarn, that you do need to watch out for splitting the yarn because it's not particularly tightly plied, but it's beautiful other than that. And I just hope I found all the split bits. I think I did. But yeah, it took me a little while to duplicate stitch, almost like darning before it goes, if you see what I mean. And the difference, other than these wings, is at the bottom of the, you can see quite well there, of the chart of the shawl, because what I wanted to do was make it a nice smooth transition from the lace over into the stocking stitch panels, and I knew I wanted to garter edging because I didn't want it to curl up, so I wanted it all to be the same. So I changed the edging to make it sort of a transition from the lace into the garter at the bottom. And I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I think it looks quite good, that transition. So I'm thinking this will get written up because I'm really pleased how it turned out, and that means I'm more than happy to knit another one, which is how I tend to write my patterns. Is I sort of have the ideas, I do some charting, I do some sketching out of ideas, and I start to knit it, and I write down exactly what I knit as I go along and sort of scrub out stuff as I rip back and things like that. And then what I do is if I'm really pleased with the finished object, I will sort of take those notes and put them into pattern form, and then I will knit it again to make sure I can actually follow my own instructions, and then I will send it out to testers. So I will always have 2 versions of a pattern to take photos of for the pattern, and also just to make sure that it's how I want it to be. I mean, there are always things that slip through from your own sort of personal test into general testing, and sometimes stuff even gets through a group of testers as well. I think mainly because what happens is people who test are generally quite experienced knitters, and sometimes their brain just skips over stuff. They sort of say, oh, I know what they're trying to do, and they just do it. They don't even think about the fact that what's been written down isn't actually right. And that has happened to me in a hat pattern I'd written years ago. Somebody came back to me and said, I don't think this is right. And I was like, oh, don't be ridiculous. Of course it's right. So many people have knit this pattern. It can't possibly be wrong. No, it was wrong. Nobody had noticed, or if they had noticed, they'd not told me. I was quite embarrassed about that. So that's why I try and do them twice. But yeah, really, really pleased. It just sits really nicely. I can just loop it round and keep myself warm, but it just drapes really nicely. So I'm really, really pleased with how that turned out. And I will be writing up the pattern, but knowing my record, it'll probably be about 6 months before it's ready to be tested. That's just what happens when you're a sick person. So a few people have noticed it I posted photos on Instagram and things, and people said nice things about it. So yes, it will be available to be tested, but it won't be for a while. And when I do have it available for testing, it will probably be when I've finished another one. So you'll be informed in another episode. So don't worry about it if you want to join in on the testing. So you'll have to excuse me 1 second because my throat is a bit scratchy because I've had a cold since October. It's not that bad anymore. It's just scratchy throat and a bit sniffly. Anyway, that is, oh no, it's not the end of Done Dusted. Still got loads more to show you. I've just finished my Honking big shawls. The next thing is some socks, which I'm really pleased about. These are my vanilla pattern with the shaped toes and the fish lips kiss heel and increases on the calves and 2 inches of 1x1 ribbing. So basically these will not fit anybody else except me. But the yarn is, I'm really, really happy with how the yarn knitted up. It's regular Snowflake in the 07709 colourway. And I'm really, really pleased how they knit up. What I did, as I usually do with striped yarn, for the heel, I just used the opposite end of the skein to knit the heel so the front stripes weren't interrupted. Just makes it a bit more smooth at the front because no one ever sees the heels. So that was a pair of socks that I've got off the needles, and they will be another nice addition to my machine washable socks. I think I've probably got about 50-50 now, machine washable socks and hand wash socks, which I kind of like because I have the really bright, beautiful indie dyed socks, and I also have that hand wash, and then I have these nice commercially spun sock yarns which I can just whack in the washing machine with everything else. And regular is one of the ones that they're guaranteed for 10 years, and I have not had any problems whatsoever with my regular socks. And I think the first pair of socks I knit was out of regular, and I think it was probably in 2009. So that's, you know, 6-7 years good hard wear out of them, and not even showing the vaguest sign of wear and tear on it. So I do recommend regular. Talking of sock yarn, I have done a marathon blocking session of my sock yarn squares for my blanket. I've done a marathon blocking session. I have a foam board, and I have traced out 4 individual blocks of 5x5 inches, and that makes it much easier for pinning them out. Wow, that's bright. Pinning them out, just pin at each corner, and then I use a Knit Pro blocker. The Knit Pro blockers are kind of a thin square of plastic about yay wide with lots of pins coming out the bottom, so you can just, with one piece of plastic, you can pin almost, it looks almost like a comb, sort of like 8 pins in a row with only sort of like 5 mils between each, kind of thing, and it gives you these nice straight edges. And because it's drawn out, I don't even have to think about it. So each square gets blocked to exactly the same size, which will make it a lot easier when it comes to sewing them up. But that's my fab funky fibres. I think they look great, and that's done from a different part of the skein. And it's just nice to use up. This one's rather fun. I do like that one. The last bits and pieces, like for instance, being able to use up the last of that, the Yarn Yard clam, which I'm really pleased to be able to put into my blanket, because it's a nice reminder of how nice people are in the crafting community. And this one's from one of my Wollmeister skeins. And yeah, I've just got lots and lots and lots of squares. I think there was 40 odd I did. So yeah, really pleased with how they came out. So they'll get put in the box. I now have about 105 squares and I want to do 144. So I tend to do them in batches of blocking, because what I'll do is I'll have the board out downstairs in the kitchen. I'll leave squares to soak, and then I'll just pin them out and stick the blocking board under the kitchen table, and then just get them out the next day and wash and repeat. So yeah, really pleased with that big chunk of squares to add to my collection. And you never know, might get it finished in the next 2 years. What with, it'll probably take me this year to finish all the squares, and then it'll take me another year to sew it all together, because I still haven't decided how that's going to happen. So I now have some spinning to show you. I finished, this is my hand-dyed fibre that I used World of Wool Superwash Merino, and I dyed it using Wilton's food dyes in a kind of greeny purpley colour, and really pleased with how it turned out, because I used my new spindle that I showed you in the last episode. It's got some nice differences in the greens and I'm trying to find, there's quite a nice, it's a nice chunk which is also bright green. I really like that bit. And what I got was, it's a 2-ply and it's a sport weight, and I've got 282 meters and it weighs 110 grams. So really pleased with how it turned out. It's lovely and soft because it's superwash merino. It's a nice superwash merino, and I think it's nice and subtle, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's a good yardage for a sport weight. Maybe a hat, cowl. Yeah, maybe a cowl. I think it would, maybe not for me. Not sure if it's a good colour for me or not. I mean, this is the thing with when I dye stuff, I dye colours I like, and it's the same with all spinning. I want to spin colours I really enjoy, but I don't necessarily buy the colours that suit me, if you see what I mean. When I buy yarn, I buy colours that I will wear, whereas with fibre I tend to buy the colours I really like and want to play with. And it's kind of the same with my spinning. I mean, I've still got some yarn that I spun which I hand dyed, which is this bright sunshine yellow, and I do not wear yellow. I just don't, never have done. So it's I don't know if I'll ever get it up into anything, but it's a nice way, a cheaper way for me to play with colours that I wouldn't normally splash out on, because I think 100 grams of superwash merino is about £3.50 from World of Wool, and the Wilton's food dyes are about £4 for a little pot of colour, and I use maybe 1/10 of that little pot, so it's less than a fiver to have all that fun. So it doesn't really matter if it doesn't get knit up into anything. But this one is definitely a colour I would wear. This was something I was very lucky to get on a D-stash from a friend in Leicester, and she was basically going through all of her spinning stuff, and she'd really moved away from brightly coloured sort of luxury fibres and was looking much more on more natural fibres, and she'd had them sitting around in stash for about 4 years, and she just knew she'd never get to them. So she asked me if I was interested, and I went, hell yes. And I got a big bag for a very, very reasonable sum, mainly baby long legs fibre from the first time she spun dyed fibre, because for a long time she stopped dyeing fibre, and when I bought this D-stash I couldn't get baby long legs fibre, so I got this big bag, and now she's dyeing it again. It's great to be able to buy it again, but it's nice to have these older ones as well. So, but this isn't a baby long legs one, this is Crafty Koala, and she isn't dyeing at the moment. I don't know if she has plans to come back to dyeing, but at the moment she isn't. And this is a merino silk, 50% merino, 50% silk. And the colourway is, I'm making a right mess of this, aren't I? Crushed Berries. And I did it as a chain ply. And it's a worsted weight. And I spun it worsted. And I love it. It's squishy and soft. And I think it would be good as a hat. I definitely think hat. It's 124 meters, which is 136 yards, and I really enjoyed spinning it. It was great fun. Really enjoyed it, and it's a shame I can't get hold of any more. But hopefully, maybe one day Gemma will come back to dyeing. But it's just my sort of colour, this kind of deep reddy purpley colour. So that's it for done and dusted. So nose to the grindstone. I've really only got a couple of bits that I've been working on, because obviously I finished a lot. So the first thing and the main thing I'm working on is the Doodler by Stephen West. Now, this pattern was the 2015 Mystery Knit Along pattern, and so many thousands of people did the Mystery Knit Along, and I didn't, because I don't like mysteries. I like to know what I'm knitting before I start it, because especially if it's using 3 skeins of hand dyed yarn, I can't afford to knit something I don't like. So, and sometimes Stephen West can be a little bit out there. So I waited, and then Christmas got in the way, and then I was like, right, I want to knit this now. And I very luckily was able to find 3 colours from Stash that I think work well together. So this is what I've got so far. Isn't that blue amazing? So I looked at a lot of the projects that had been done and completed, and the ones that I liked the most were the ones which had neutral colours but with a pop of colour. I quite like the speckle dye ones, but I don't have a lot of speckle dye. So I thought, well, I've got this pale grey, which is called Steel, and the yarn is from Eden Cottage Yarns, and it's Pendle. That's 100% superwash merino. And then I've got this dark grey colour, which is Waverley, and it's the yarn yard Plan, which again is 100% superwash merino. And I love this cable across the top. I don't know how easy, yeah, there we go. You can see it's a garter stitch cable that runs all the way across the top of the shawl, and I love it. I think it looks great, and I really enjoyed making it. And the sort of short row wedges, which make these kind of waves along the bottom edge, which are just great fun. And it's also got the edging had it's I-cord edging, but then you pick up in this blue in the back of the I-cord, which kind of flattens it out, but the I-cord gives it this nice crisp edge, this nice transition between this scarf stitch and this scarf stitch. And I was very sensible, and I've woven in as I went, so I'll just have to trim those after it's been blocked. And this bottom edge has more short row shaping in it, and it's got some increases and decreases to kind of enhance the kind of undulations at the bottom, and absolutely love it. The blue is Countess Ablaze Lady Persephone sock, which is a Blue Face Leicester nylon blend, and the colour is Persia, and it practically glows, this blue. It's fantastic. And I really think this, so I thought about having the top edge being the light grey, and then I thought, well, that'd be silly because that's the top edge, that's going to be rubbing on stuff all the time. It's going to look really grubby very quickly. So that's kind of how it'll be bunched up around my neck. And I think having a lot of neutral with a big pop of blue, I think it'll work really well. So I've been really kind of obsessively knitting on this since finishing all my other big projects, and been really enjoying it. I do enjoy the way Stephen West writes his patterns and his designs. There were a couple of techniques that we used which I was a little unclear about. So I looked up in the knit along threads, the Stephen West knit along thread, and I found a post by J Kim is Yellow, and that had a link to a Tumblr account with photograph tutorials of lots of techniques that this pattern uses that were incredibly clear, very well described, and cleared up every sort of question I had. So I've put a link to that in my show notes. It's also on the project page in Ravelry with a link to those tutorials because they are very, very good. And it was very good of J Kim is Yellow to actually spend the time to do those, because I know it's not a quick thing to do is to write a photo tutorial at all. So very impressed that he would do that with, I think it was about 5 tutorials that he did for that. Obviously I didn't need to use the tutorials for all of them, but I did need them for a couple of things because I just wasn't clear in how it was described in the pattern. The other thing I have been working on is some socks, and it's a very, very similar sort of blue colour as the Doodler is. So the yarn is the Knitting Goddess Merino 4-ply, Superwash Merino 4-ply, and I got this at Fibre East 2014, and it is a really lovely yarn. It's incredibly soft, very bouncy. Really like it. It's nice and tightly plied, so I think it'll be fairly hard wearing, being a merino nylon blend. And I just love that blue. Really, really love it. So again, this is my standard vanilla pattern, so I do like the way stripes turn out on the fish lips kiss heel. I just like the way it changes up because you're just doing it over a much fewer stitches than you do on the body of the foot and the leg. So that's the first one I've done that. So it's going quite slowly because I've not been going out very much and chatting to people. So I've not been working on it in public, which is what I normally do with my socks. So I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to have another drink. Clunk. I hope that didn't make an awful ring in your speakers. Right. Okay. I think, yes, that's everything in done and dusted at last. Or even that was completely wrong. I'm actually on Nose to the Grindstone and I haven't finished that. I've actually been working on some prep for spinning. I've been pre-drafting some fibre. It's really lovely stuff. I bought this quite a long time ago from Heavenly Wools, which are a New Zealand company, and this is half bred wool, which is essentially a merino cross with something in the far distant reaches of time, and it's 24.5 microns, so it's nice and soft, but it's not falling apart in your fingers soft. So it's got a little bit of bite to it, which means it doesn't fall apart really quickly. And this roving is beautiful. It's Dragon's Breath over Natural Grey. So it's a natural grey roving, and then it's dyed with the Dragon's Breath colourway. And Heavenly Wools is based in New Zealand, and their prices are exceptionally low. I was able to get 200 grams of this sent to me from New Zealand, and it came under the £15 customs limit. So that's 200 grams for under £15, which I think is exceptional value. And the colours are beautiful. I really, really recommend you go and have a look at their Etsy shop because they're lovely. And this is really beautifully soft. And it's hard to sort of convey softness on video, but it's beautifully bouncy. It really is a nice softness, but it's got substance to it. I think it's going to spin up beautifully. So I have pre-drafted the 200 grams, and I'm going to spin them. Is it semi-worsted because it's a woolen prep? I can never remember which way around it goes, but I will spin it worsted to make it a semi-worsted, and I will spin it up as a true 3-ply. So what I've done is, because I can only fit about 50 grams at a time on my spindle, I split it up into 4 50-gram batches and then made 3 pre-drafted balls from each of those 4. So I've got 4 of these plastic bags with 3 of each in, and this will be a 50 gram skein, which will be a 3-ply skein, if you see what I mean. Because that's the main problem with a spindle as far as I'm concerned, apart from the speed. And to be honest, my speed is pretty good on the spindle now anyway. The amount you can get on your spindle, you have to have much smaller skeins than you would if you're using a bobbin, where you can get 100 grams on a bobbin. Sometimes you can get a lot more than 100 grams if you've got those great big bobbins. So that's the main problem with spindling. But because I have quite a good collection of spindles now, I don't have to stop and wind off every time I reach the end of a spindle, which makes life a lot easier. So for each batch I'll be able to do 3 spindles and then wind those 3 strands, I think they call ends, aren't they? 3 ends onto a plying ball to be plied later on. So I can use the same 3 spindles for each of the 50 gram skeins. So that's the plan anyway. So that is the end of Nose to the Grindstone. So next up is Splashed Out. I have some very pretty things to show you. The first of which I am so pleased to have finally got. It's my very first fat squirrel bag. Look how cute it is. Look at the animals. I love that bear. And the fox is pretty cute too. It's lovely, isn't it? And the lining. Oh my god, the lining. Look at the little mushrooms. How cute is that? Really like it. I think this is the small wedge. I think. I can't remember and I can't track down the invoice if it tells me or not. But I'm pretty sure this is the small wedge. And normally fat squirrel bags, the update goes on at 9 PM Eastern Standard Time, which is 2 AM GMT. 2 AM. So for once, my painsomnia, which keeps me awake till all hours when I get a bad flare, I was awake at 2 AM on Friday, or should I say Saturday morning. So I thought, you know what, I'm awake for an update. I'm going to have a look and see what's there. And there was this really cute small wedge, and it took me over the customs limit, and I was feeling crappy and tired and just went, I don't care. It's going to make me feel good to buy this, so I'm going to buy it. And I didn't have to pay customs on it. I couldn't believe it. I've been so jammy with customs lately. Don't know what's going on. Either they've got temps in who don't care, or there's an amnesty in Braunston, in Leicester. I don't know. I've just got away with it a couple of times, which probably means we're going to be hit by every single customs charges for the next 3 years. But pretty pleased that it didn't have to pay it on this. I mean, it's not the cheapest bag out there by any stretch of the imagination, but they are beautifully made, and she chooses incredibly good fabrics. I mean, this is sturdy. This is going to hold up to a lot of stuff. The zip is incredibly sturdy. A lot of project bags, the zips are what let them down, I find. And I think Amy Beth has made a really good choice to go with sturdy zips that are going to stand up to a lot of zipping and unzipping. And I really like the handle, because I just like using it as a zip pull. It's just easier to use. As well as, I mean, I don't really walk around with bags like that. I just don't. I don't knit with things on my wrist. But if you're out knitting in a pub or something, it's kind of nice to be able to hang it on the back of a chair and just have the yarn come through, and you can knit, and you don't have to worry about the ball running around on the really nasty floor. So, and it came with this bag of lavender, and apparently I've become very sensitive to fragrances as well as everything else. I opened the bag and sneezed about 3 times. Never had that reaction to lavender in my life. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my goodness. But the lavender bag has gone in with some yarn, and it will do a lot of good in there, I'm sure, keeping the moths away. But look at the little birdies. They're so sweet. Little owls. Just a really lovely fabric, and I'm really pleased with it. So for once there was a silver lining to being awake in pain at 2 AM. Now, the other thing I want to show you was something that I got in this week, and it's from Sarah's Texture Crafts, and she has just launched her mini skeins. And I think I decided that I was going to get some because I like her yarn, and because I've been knitting all those sock yarn squares, and I just wanted something a bit different to knit up. And these are perfect for sock yarn squares. So I got 6, and they're different bases. They're mainly the standard sock, and I've got a couple of the sparkle ones, and there's 20 grams of each. Let me see. Which is 80 meters. So I should get probably 2 squares out of each one. That one's on sparkle sock, and that's blue Sirocco. This one is on the standard sock, and that's anemone. I hate saying that word. But isn't that pretty? That purple. So nice. This one is standard sock and is Rosemore. I love this colour. Something about hot pinks and bright greens together that just ticks all my boxes. This next one is a sparkle sock, and it's Exmoor. Love those sorts of dark, sludgy colours, together with this lovely rich blues and greens. And this one's Ilfracombe, and this is a standard sock. Lovely bright blues. So I've not got enough bright blues in my sock yarn squares. And this last one is Labradorite, and that's another sparkle. And I've been umming and ahhing about getting the fibre in this colourway, and I thought, well, I'll get it in the mini skein, and I can see what it looks like knit up with the colours together, and I can see whether I'm going to buy the fibre. I think I will be based on that. But those are really nice, and both bases feel really good, and I think I'll really enjoy knitting with them and seeing them blocked up. So I just thought I'd show you those. Go and have a look at her mini skeins. I think they're £3.50, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's quite a few, and she doesn't do them to order, unlike most of her colours. Like her proper 100-gram skeins, pretty much you can get or dyed to order, and the same with her fibre as well on the different bases. And she doesn't hang around, Sarah. She gets them out fast. But they're going to be fun. I just wanted to show you those before I wound them up into little balls and started knitting with them. And then this other yarn that I have got. First off, I will show you this amazing bargain I got from Unwind Yarn Company, and it's the Journey sock base, and this is 125 gram skein, and it's 500 yards of the Journey sock, which is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon, and the colourway is Jimmy Angelov, which I'm assuming is some TV reference. But I love those sort of bright greens and with the blacks, the greys and the browns. Just really like, I think it'll look amazing as a garter stitch shawl. I just think those bright greens will really pop out done like that. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I'm wondering about winging it on a garter stitch shawl of some sort. Because I really like this a lot. And it was on sale, so it came under the customs limit. Another bargain I got, I can't remember if it was Black Friday or not. It might have been after Black Friday. But Easy Knits do some amazing yarns, really interesting bases with fantastic colours, really beautiful saturated colours. And I don't buy them very often, because a lot of them are semi-solid, and I don't tend to buy many semi-solids. I don't know why, I just don't tend to buy variegated yarns unless it's for a big project like a sweater or something, in which case I want a semi-solid or a solid. But I don't do many sweater projects, so I don't buy them very often. Anyway, Easy Knits had a deal where you could pay, I think it was £6 for a skein of yarn. You didn't know what base you were going to get, you didn't know what colour you were going to get. It was just £6, you get what you're given. And I thought, that's a real bargain, and if I don't like it, I can always destash it. I'm exceptionally pleased with what I got. First off, this is Twinkle Dk, and I love this, it's so pretty. And it's 75% merino, 20% silk and 5% stellina, and this is the berry colourway, and it's 210 metres of a double knit, and it's so soft, pretty. This make an amazing cowl or hat, either would be great. Really love it, and I think the sparkles will just make you smile on a cold grey day. So definitely keeping that one. Secondly, this is my favourite. This is the smoke base. Now, I've never felt the smoke base before, and I was a bit about it. It is 55% BFL, I love BFL, 35% Wensleydale. It's a really interesting yarn, and after doing the swatching, the undyed yarn breed swatch for Louise's, my brain's gone completely. Knit British. God, brain. Her sort of swatch along. I knit my first skein of Wensleydale and I really, really liked it. So it's 35% Wensleydale and 10% Gotland. Now, I have never felt Gotland before. Never, not even a sniff of it. So I was kind of a bit reluctant to try this base out, and I love it. It is fantastic. It's got this halo. I don't know how easy it is to show you the halo. Don't know how easy it is. I don't think you can see it very well. But it's got a halo on it, and which is from the Wensleydale and the Gotland, and it's really soft. And I think that's because there's a big chunk of BFL in it. And I think it'd be incredibly warm. And the colourway is doubloon, and it's 150 grams skein, and it's 500 meters of fingering weight yarn. And that's kind of like a heavy fingering weight, but it's gorgeous. And I think that's going to be a very special project indeed. I really like it. This sort of mustardy colour is one of my, probably the only way I can wear yellow, really. So definitely keeping that. This third one is the one I wasn't sure about. This is Lush in the Yeah colourway, and it's 100% Blueface Leicester double knit, and it's 100 grams, 225 meters. Now that is quite an accurate, it's kind of a strawberry red, and I'm not sure whether I can wear it or not. You tell me if I can wear it, please. Because the base is amazing. It's so bouncy and squishy and soft. I love it, really love it. I can't decide whether I can wear it or not. I really don't know. And I don't know whether, if I over dye it, whether I'll ruin it or not. I don't know. But I really like the base. Because I thought about giving it to you guys as a prize, but then I was like, I really like the base. So I'm leaning on the keeping it. And maybe just knitting something for somebody else out of it that it will suit more than me. Or even I could probably wear it as mittens. It probably would be fine for mittens because it's not up near my face. But yeah, so yeah, I was really, really pleased with my incredible bargain from Easy Knits. So they do that at least once a year. They'll do like a blind, you get what you get, but you pay cheap prices. So if you wanted to de-stash, you'd be all right, kind of thing. And finally today, I want to show you some amazing rowlags I got from Fondant Fibre. I'm going to regret pulling these out now. Look how pretty they are. The rowlags are called Winter Wonderland, and they have got, oh, she's not put it on that tag, how strange. But it's things like merino, angora, silk, stellina, that sort of thing in there. When I spin it up, I'll make sure to tell you what's actually in it. But they're absolutely beautiful. They're so soft and light and fluffy. Let me show you one. There we go. Look how pretty it is. It's going to be so much fun to spin. So much fun. Every time I go on the website and I see these still for sale, I'm really tempted to buy another batch because I think it would make an amazing sort of big project. So that is it for Splashed Out. And finally, online community. I got an email this week telling me about Katja Frankel, and she's doing her very first knit along on her Ravelry group, and it's called Anything Goes Knit Along. and it's basically you can knit any of her patterns. The knit along goes from 20th of February to the 20th of March, and from now until the 29th of February there is a discount on any of her patterns. Now she has got about 80 patterns on Ravelry that you can download, so there's bound to be something there that you'll want to knit, which is why I want to tell you about it. Even if you don't want to join in the knit along, the discount is definitely worth having at 20% off. And the discount is anything goes Cal, all lowercase, all sort of mushed together. I'm really, really tempted to join in myself, and I've got the vector hat pattern I've already got. I told you about a couple of episodes ago. That's a really nice worsted weight hat with a really nice sort of simple pattern on it. It's just done with knits and pearls, I think. And that's a worsted weight hat, and you can never have too many worsted weight hats now, can you? But the other thing I thought about doing was a shawl pattern that she brought out recently, which is, and I don't know how to pronounce this, side reel. And it's just a single wet skein of light fingering weight, and it's a really pretty triangular shawl. Really like it. Got these sort of mainly mesh with these little diamonds, and because it's very, very lacy, it's a lot bigger than you would normally think you'd get for a shawlette. And it's wider than it is deep, which is how I like my shawlettes, because it means they stay around your neck better. So I'm kind of tempted to do that as well, or instead of. So I don't know. But I thought I'd let you know about the knit along. I don't know what the prizes are, I haven't had a look. But I think the discount is certainly worth having at 20% off, because she has a lot of really nice patterns, and she's done quite a lot for kids, especially boys. So it's always worth having a look at, because they're always hard to find, I think, sort of boy patterns, knitting patterns that are good, interesting boy knitting patterns, rather than just really basic boxy things. So I just thought I'd let you know about that, so you can either join in or buy a pattern, or both. So that's it. That's all I got for you today, other than to say thank you for joining me, spending your time with me again. I always enjoy seeing you, and I especially enjoy hearing from you over in the Ravelry group, or on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, or even via message or email. It's always good to hear from you. I enjoy our little chats. I really like it when I get chatted back to, rather than me just speaking into the ether and never hearing from you again. It makes me feel warm and special. So thank you for talking to me in between my sporadic episodes. It keeps me going. So thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll hear from you over on the Ravelry group, and maybe see some more knit along projects in the near future. So take care of yourself. I hope you have a nice time between now and the next episode, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.